as a rest and restore class. It's a restorative class, but perhaps not the same as some restorative classes that you may have taken before. This class is really about releasing tension, not about any long holding stretches. So we're trying to find and locate places where we might be holding tension in the body and finding ways to release the tension in the body. And it's really a very gentle meditative class. So we move just a little bit, just enough to get into the body, feel the physical body, but really more about connecting with the whole layers, connecting with the meditative layers, the mind, the whole system. So we're just going to begin by sitting in our seat for just a moment and taking some wiggles. Wiggle the shoulders. Wiggle, notice what's present. Take some spinal movements, move your shoulders, do some little twisting, move your neck. Just starting to feel what is present, landing in the physical body. So really just feeling what's present in the shoulders, maybe taking some circles with the shoulders. Really landing, feeling, maybe feeling your neck, maybe even taking your hands here, feeling around your neck and shoulders. Just noticing what is present. Maybe a little bit of neck movement. Starting to land in the physical body. And then our first pose for today is going to be face down. So lots and lots of props. As many props as you can find today. And we have all these props. You can do with pillows, cushions, blankets, anything you can find. Take your cushions off the couch. Use couch cushions. So Kaylee is going to, hold on. This one goes here. We're going to go face down on the bolster. So what we want for this is to get as much from our hips to the top of our torso, the shoulders, onto the bolster as possible. So we want that there. We want to make a gap for our face so that we can breathe. Come forward. And then we like to use the blocks to place our head on. And then an eye pillow on top, just because the block is kind of not comfy and it's kind of gross. So as Kaylee starts to settle in here, I'm looking at her. I can see how she's sitting. And she likes to wrap her hands in underneath like that. I'm going to take something and put them in underneath her feet so that she has just a little bit of softness in the legs. A little bit, maybe more relaxation in the lower back. Everything is able to kind of land into the ground a little more. And Kaylee has a lot of tension in her shoulders, so I'm going to place some weight across her shoulders. Again, these are all options. You don't have to do these things. And then a blanket. So finish up with a blanket. Start to land. So now in this position, we're thinking about the front line. So we're thinking about all these sensations between the shoulders and the hips. So our theme of the week is Ahimsa, thinking about doing no harm. And one of the things that we need to know to be able to actively do no harm is we need to know what's going on in our system, and we need to know how to turn off that fight or flight stress response in our body. So this position in particular, face down, gives a lot of pressure to some of the nerves in the front. So there's some nerves along our front line. And this can help really draw us down into the ground. Start to think about the weight of the blanket, the weight of your body. Start to imagine gravity really pulling you down, starting to release the tension and holding in the muscles at the shoulders, the muscles at the back. Starting to connect with your breath, drawing in fresh. And with every breath out, maybe lengthening in the spine. So imagine bringing your breath down your spine And then as it comes out, it's kind of sweeping away what's no longer needed, and maybe a little more space slowly happens between each vertebrae. Drawing in fresh and sweeping away tension with the exhale. And then focus particularly on the shoulders. Really think about your shoulders. See if you can send that fresh breath, imagining that it's coming in through the top of your head, right to the center of your shoulders, and then spreading out across your shoulders. So you're bringing intentional fresh breath and energy across the top of your shoulders, and then sweeping away what's no longer needed with the exhale. Drawing in fresh, sweeping away what's no longer needed. Bring as much of your focus as you can possibly bring to your shoulders. Can you feel sensation? Can you feel maybe there's discrepancies on left and right sides? Does one shoulder feel tighter or softer than the other? Just noticing, really finding physical sensation across the back of the shoulders. And as you focus on your shoulders, think about your hands. Do you need to release some gripping in your hands to further soften the muscles that are in the shoulders? And then think about the muscles across the upper back. So starting to think about upper back across the top of the rib cage. Drawing in fresh down the spine, all the way to the mid back, upper back, and spreading fresh energy across the space. So look for particularly pinching between the shoulder blades. It's a common place for us to hold tension, holding tension right in between the shoulder blades. Imagine your breath could come in fresh from the crown of your head all the way down to this point right in the middle of your back. And then spread across, slowly sweeping softness across the upper back. Drawing in fresh, sweeping down your spine, sweeping across the mid-back. And then slowly move your awareness down towards the hips. So bring all of your breath and your awareness, connecting to your breath. So connecting to the magic of our breath, the magic of drawing in fresh. It comes into our body, and then we transform it into the energy we need, and then we send it out. Send out what's no longer needed. So connect with that. Connect with imagining drawing it in down your spine, and all the way to your hips, sending it intentionally to your hips, spreading across the back of your hips, slowly softening and bringing fresh breath and energy across the back of your hips, and then slowly sweeping back up, sweeping away anything no longer needed. And then for a few breaths, just thinking about your spine, your energetic spinal highway, this place where we send messages from the brain down the spine to the body, and then all the messages come from the body back up the spine and back to the brain, this energetic highway. Thinking about either side, there's nerve bundles on either side of our spine. So right now, the front side, all the nerve bundles are a little bit compressed. You can think about them being hugged, a little bit supported, and the back is open. So start to think about the back areas opening, shining, vibrating, being more filled with vibrant energy. So a little bit of compression on the front allows the back to soften and shine a little more. And if you're particularly visual, you can imagine shining. So your heart space, your heart bundle of energy right in the middle of your chest on the back side is green. So imagine green light glowing and vibrating here. You can think about the back of your throat, the front being a little bit compressed and the back opening and shining. And this is blue. You can think of a light, you can think of a flower, anything that helps you visualize cleansing, glowing, fresh life. It's just an energetic practice, a meditative practice, something to give your mind to focus on. And then down right below the rib cage. So right below the rib cage meets on the front side, your solar plexus space. Bright yellow ball of energy. So a little compressed on the front side. Imagine it being hugged on the front. So now it's expanding and opening on the back side. Imagine it light, fresh, vibrating with fresh energy, fresh life. And then right around the navel area, little orange ball of energy. So think about the front being a little bit supported and the back being very open, glowing, vibrating, fresh. And then right about the hips, we have our red ball of energy. So a little bit of compression across the front of the hips and a lot of opening and softening across the back of the hips. And then again, return to that spine breath, imagining bringing your energy and your breath in through the crown of your head, sweeping down the spine to the tailbone, and then all the way back up. A few more cleansing breaths in this position, sweeping in fresh and sweeping out anything no longer needed, tension, holding patterns, anything no longer needed, really, truly softening as much as possible into this position, letting go. And then to come out of this position, we want to make sure that we're not making ourselves too alert. So we're going to try and be very, very mindful. So as if your body is a sleeping baby and we don't really want to wake it, we're going to creep and crawl and move very mindfully and gently. So begin by placing both hands on the mat and feeling your hands on the mat so that you just have some sensation in your hands. Feel your hands, and then start to engage all the muscles of the stomach just lightly. So you're really thinking about engaging these muscles that we're pressing into right now, all the way down to the hips, and then pressing into the hand with those muscles fired up, nice and slow and gentle. Come back to a child's pose. So the hips go back towards feet. Take a little pause in this position, a reset pose. Taking a moment just to pause between poses. And then if you have a couch or a chair or something that you can prop a pillow up at, we're going to try and go to a pose that's at a little bit of an angle. So we're going to have our bolster up. So we're going to use roll over. You're going to have your hips up close to the bolster. in the studio, we use the cushions. So leaning back, one thing to be mindful of is your own neck comfort when you come to this position. So we are going to open hips in this position. So first we're going to talk about hips. We're going to open hips in this position. Kayla's going to bring her feet together and let her knees come out. I'm going to see where her knees come to and then raise her above that position. So gently placing something just above her most open position. So this is not a stretch. Not a stretch. We're releasing and softening into the ground. She needs a couple more cushions. So, Kayla also needs something in underneath her arms so that her shoulders can soften and release their tension, and then something for her head and neck. A lot of people have, okay.
Sorry, I didn't prepare the prompts enough.
A lot of people have, this position is different for everybody. So where your neck is comfortable is going to be different for everyone. You want to be very mindful. So we're going to sit into this position for a while, and you want to be mindful that you're comfortable, that you're not increasing tension anywhere in your body. So for Kaylee, I'm going to roll one of these big blankets. I'm going to place it in under her neck and then up around her head and back around so that she has kind of this little bonnet thing support for her head. Is that good? Mm-hmm. So now her shoulders are able to release their tension. They're not holding, they're not gripping. They know where gravity has her bones, something supporting everything in her body. There's no stretch in this position whatsoever. So then, of course, putting the blanket on. Take your time getting set up. Slowly settling into this position, and if you want, you can have an eye pillow also. So now we're thinking about Ahimsa on the opposite way. So we had our back open, we had our back exposed, shall we say, in the previous position. This pose, we're going to have our front line exposed, and we have even our hips open. So everything is kind of the opposite to what we just did. So start to connect with that. Start to connect with how that feels. Now, there are no right or wrong answers for any of these positions and poses. There's a lot of differences in our bodies. There's a lot of differences in our holding patterns and our experiences. So for some people, that face down surrender is much more comfortable. For other people, this face up surrender is much more comfortable. This letting go in this position, it depends. Everybody is different. But connect to it and how it feels in your own system. The whole point of every practice we do is to have an experience within your own system. So start to feel your back. Start to make sure, take a little check-in, make some wiggles if you need to. Make sure all of the muscles of your back are able to start to let go. Think about your shoulders. Think about how they were drawing down to gravity previously, and now they're starting to draw open with gravity. And they're going in the opposite direction. Maybe the muscles of the chest can start to loosen and soften and open. And then start to think about that breath moving down your spine, spine breath, thinking about drawing in energy, fresh energy from the crown of the head, down the spine, all the way to the tailbone and then all the way back up. So drawing in fresh, sweeping in fresh energy, and sweeping out whatever is no longer needed. Starting to really connect with this breath. Each breath that you take, drawing in down your spine. And then we're going to get to know what is present. So we're going to send our focus around our body. One of the ways that we do focus practice is to think about the chakra system. So you don't need to know exactly all of everybody's rules and practices and definitions. It's just an easy way to visualize and send our awareness around our body. So whatever helps you connect with this. We have a spine. Our spine sends energy up and down our body, and in certain places in our spine there are nerve bundles where the energy is more strong in certain spots because there's more of a meeting place of energy. So just thinking about that, you can think about a visual, you can think about a color, you can think about it being really anatomical if your mind is more scientific, and it helps you to just think about nerves running up and down your spine and energy centers where these nerves meet. Maybe that's what works for you. Find a way to just bring all of your attention, your mind, your focus to this concept. Energy moving down the spine and back up, and there being meeting points where there's more energy. So we're going to start at the crown of the head. So at the very crown of the head, that place that's soft when a baby is born. We're going to think about a flower or a ball of energy, something bursting with life. We're going to think about increasing our awareness and our energy in the crown of our head. If you like, you can imagine your energy being a ball of energy trickling out, or your flower growing and expanding and connecting to something just above you, perhaps a little cloud of energy, perhaps increasing your own energy by connecting with a ball of energy just outside of you. And then bring all of your awareness to the center of the head, so in the middle of the brain. And bring a little ball of energy right here. Your ball of energy can have any color, any visual that you like, anything that just helps you bring all of your awareness to imagining fresh energy to this space. And then find the throat. So again, now we're thinking about the back side being a little bit supported, a little bit hugged, and the front being open. So think about the throat opening and being more fresh because the back is supported. So a nice big ball of energy in the throat, cleansing, moving, fresh with life. And then come down to the center of the chest. A nice big green ball or any other color that connects for you of energy right in the center of the chest. A little bit of support on the back so that the front can open and expand. And breathe fresh energy to this space. Travel down to the solar plexus space right between the rib cage. A big ball of fresh energy moving here. And think about this space in particular. This is the space where we often feel physically our emotions. So think about butterflies in the stomach when we're nervous. Think about stress. Oftentimes we feel an acidic reaction starting here. Physical sensations from our emotions often come from this space. So think about fresh, moving, very volatile energy. So emotions are really moving. They move, move, move. They're sensations that are supposed to move quite fast. And when we think about this, we often think about a ball of sun, this fiery, fiery energy. So it's not that emotions should not be fiery, it's that gripping onto them becomes a problem. So when we hold onto this space and try to suppress an emotion or try to overly attach ourselves to another, like decide one is negative and one is positive, so we try to suppress the negative and grip onto the positive. So emotions are supposed to flow. So think about the fiery energy of the sun. Think about flowing in this space. Energy moving. Think about this being just a filter for our environment. This space, this energetic space, it's just a filter for our environment, not a space that our head needs to get caught up in. Think about it softening and opening and moving freely with life. And as we move down into the lower torso, we're really moving into that fight or fight space. So start to really feel what is present. Are you starting to slow? Are you starting to release tension, muscular tension, physical tension in this space? Are your thighs relaxing? Are the muscles of your stomach relaxing? How about the glutes? Notice if there's tension still in the feet. Notice if you're gripping with your hands. Notice if your digestion is starting to gurgle and rumble. It's a sure sign that you're starting to release, you're starting to let go. So the opposite of fight or flight is rest and digest. So see if you can imagine softness all across the front of the torso. So really thinking about that navel space and the front of the hips. Fresh, soft, moving energy. Releasing tension all the way across the stomach. Releasing tension in the stomach around the organs of digestion. Thinking about all of your body being completely supported right now. Your muscles can turn off, they can take a break. You're supported. You have something holding you, supporting you on the ground. The blanket is over you, giving you comfort. You can rest, you can release into the support below you. And then thinking about moving energy and intentionally being with our energy. We're going to think about moving energy in a loop around our lower body. So we're going to imagine that we could send energy down our left leg, meet at the soles of our feet, and pull the energy up our right leg. So whatever helps you imagine this. Maybe you have a ball of energy you send down and you watch it move. Maybe you can imagine a flow, a feeling like a river moving through your body. Whatever helps you connect with this. Think about moving energy from the hips down the left leg, meet at the soles of the feet, and draw it back up meeting back at the hips. So sending down fresh and sweeping away what's no longer needed. So as you connect with this energy pattern, sending down the left leg, meeting at the soles of the feet, and coming back up, imagine that this is energy that is fresh, full of life, contains exactly what you need without your cognitive mind having a message for that. So even if you think you know that you want to work with health or you want to work with this thing or that thing, try to let go of a cognitive thought, a cognitive explanation of what this energy is, and just have faith that this is a energy that contains precisely what you need right now. And it's going to move down the left leg. It's going to meet at the soles of the feet, and it's going to sweep back up the right leg. Imagine that this moving energy, this energetic path, is free of holding patterns, free of misaligned bones, free of our experiences and anything that we're holding on to. We're just sending energy in this imaginative path in our body. And as this is a practice, whenever your mind pulls you off the mat, whenever your mind drags you somewhere else, just gently start over. Find your ball of energy, find your pattern, and connect back into it. And if it helps you, if it does not increase stress, you can imagine working with your breath. So the inhale is down and the exhale is sweeping up. And then gently see if you can switch the direction of your energy. So now you're going to send the energy down the right leg, meet at the soles of the feet, and come back up the left leg. So switching which way your energy is moving, sweeping down fresh down the right leg and bringing out whatever is no longer needed up the left leg. Thinking about moving energy through our base, through our sense of grounding, our sense of home. So our feet are the things that are closest to the earth, closest to grounding. And our sense of home, our sense of security can be something that's really difficult to connect to. Especially for many of us that perhaps have moved a lot, maybe you did not have a particular home base and sense of security in childhood, maybe you've had traumatic experiences. There's a lot of reasons why connecting to our base, our sense of home and security can be very difficult. So rather than thinking about being comfortable in your body and being secure and at home and grounded always and forever at every moment, think about this practice and this moment and the fact that we've spent a little time releasing into the ground, and perhaps just a little bit, for a little moment, you can tell yourself that you are safe and secure and grounded in this body in this moment in time. And it's just a little building block. So maybe for one breath you can feel at home in this body, at home and grounded in this space. And it can be helpful to perhaps say to yourself, in this moment, my needs are met. It can help you have that sense of grounding sense of being able to let go of these layers of protection we hold around the hips and the legs and the back, and let them release and take a little break. Turning off fight or flight, turning on rest and digest. So still thinking about moving that energy down the right leg, meeting at the soles of the feet and bringing it back up. Bringing softness, bringing comfort, as if you're trying to land your awareness in your own body in this moment in time. You're trying to find the cells of your body. You're trying to feel what is present. Trying to have an experience of being at home in this body in this moment in time. And then checking in, noticing how you feel. Maybe this is it. Maybe you are in the position that you want to remain in. Maybe you found perfect release and you're ready to just stay here. The third pose, we really only do 3 or 4 poses whenever we do our restorative classes. So our third pose today is going to be putting our feet up on the chair. So we're going to gently. First thing we're going to do is take our hands and place them on our thighs and give our thighs a little rub. Just bringing some warmth and awareness to our thighs before we move our thighs. So then bring your thighs together with your hands. Pull them together so they're together. And slowly roll to a side. So you're going to come to a side to come out of this. Slow, slow, slow. And then sit up. So it's going to be easier for you if you just flip around, Kaylee. So then we're going to bring feet onto the chair. So you're going to lay down on your back. And really the whole idea for this pose is just to get your feet up above the heart. So we learned a trick in the studio. When you put your feet up on the chair, there's often a drop. So you bring the bolster in to give yourself a little more warmth and comfort. Another thing to watch for when you bring your feet up on the chair is some people's hips are nice and loose. So it can be helpful to place something in next to your leg so that your legs, your knees, your hips know where the end is. So it's like telling your body where it is in space, giving your body something to rest against. And then, of course, make sure you wrap up your feet so that they're nice and warm. So make your feet nice and warm. Some people will need something in underneath the neck to support the neck. Some people might need, if you have particularly round shoulders, so the shoulders feel like they're lifting up off the ground, it can be helpful to place a tiny little something, little cloth, something in underneath the shoulder, so that the shoulder knows where the support is. This helps the muscles of the shoulder release down. So you want everything to know where support is. You don't want any muscles holding tight and lifting up out of the ground. So looking for ways to find support. Now, as you're settling into this pose, warm your hands. So rub your hands together, warm them. And then let your hands land on your torso wherever they're drawn to. So this time, we're thinking about the healing energy of our own body, the warmth of our own hands. Why do we touch ourselves when we hurt ourselves? You stub a toe, what's your first instinct? It's to grab it with your hand, because there's something healing, something strong with that touch sensation. It makes us feel better. So think about your own healing energy, your own healing hands, the energy, the warmth, the support, the kind of loving comfort of your own hands. And let them land on your body and connect with where they're landing. So starting to land in. If you are using the eye pillow again, the rice lands on either side of the face, not on the eyelids. Kayla likes her eye pillow, especially because we have the lights on for the studio. It's super bright. And for Kaylee too, again, she likes a little weight. I'm going to bring some weight across the front of her hips, help her hips find the ground. So take your time, settling in, finding your own spot, your own grounding. This is our final position for class. So we're sticking with that theme of Ahimsa, sticking with doing no harm. So how do we do no harm? First of all, we check in with our system as we set into this position, and we make sure we're not actually causing physical harm. So check in with your neck, check in with your back. Make sure you didn't land in some funny way. Check in on your low back. Sometimes when we lay on our back, we have the need to force our spine into a straight line. So we kind of over flatten our low back and tilt our pelvis, and we push our neck backwards because it's looking for support. So check in. Notice any of these frequent patterns that perhaps you might have. Maybe give your hips a little wiggle, see if you can soften and get your natural curves back. Maybe your head needs a little wiggle and twist. Maybe you need to check on where your chin is. Maybe if you really do have a lot of neck strain, you need to put something in underneath your neck to let your neck know where support is, so the muscles of your neck can release. Check in, find your own body awareness. Find what works for you. Find what you can feel and find sensation in. And then we had that meditative practice throughout class. So thinking of the energy of our spine. So we had our back open to start with. So we brought fresh down our back. And then we had our front open and our base open. So now we're going to think about the soles of our feet, if they're lifted. If you're still in that open position, then go ahead and just think about the soles of your feet. But if they're lifted, think about the soles of your feet. So think about, in the studio when we did this, we'd come by and give you a little energy touch, a little hand. So imagine you can feel a hand at the soles of your feet, a nice warm hand, somebody's warm, kind hand at the soles of your feet. So feel the hand. Like imagine you can feel that warmth and energy. Imagine that warmth and energy is coming into your feet and it's leaving your feet soft and squishy like baby's feet. Baby's feet that have never taken a step, never tripped on a stone, never twisted. Soft little squishy baby feet. Imagine your feet could go back to that softness. Right at the soles of the feet. And then imagine you could draw that softness into the ankles. Draw all that soft, squishy softness into the ankles. Think about joints, these meeting places of our body where we put a lot of pressure. We twist, we turn, they help us move and function, but there's often a lot of gripping in our joints, a lot of strain, a lot of stress. So imagine you could pocket soft, fluffy energy right in the ankle joints. Maybe you imagine little soft, fluffy clouds, whatever helps you connect with the idea of really being soft in the ankles. And then think about the bones of the lower legs, and as if you could send that softness, that ball of soft, squishy energy around the bones in the lower legs, slowly wrapping around and meeting up in the knees. So really softly going around all the tissue, the skin, the muscles, the tendons, everything. Looking at the lower leg, softening, sweeping, letting go. And then land in the knees. How much softness can you bring to the knees? Can you imagine softness on the front of the kneecap, behind the kneecap, in between upper and lower leg, and then in the skin behind the knees? Everything soft, 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 spacious, squishy. And then slowly send your squishy, soft focus all the way up the thigh. So sending your attention as if you could wrap your energy and wrap it around in circles, spiraling up, looking at all the muscles, everything, the skin, the muscles, everything up the thigh, slowly. Bringing softness, 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 and then landing in the hips. And thinking about this joint, this big complicated joint in our body, kind of the joint that moves and assists us through so much of our unconscious movement. So walking, we don't think about our hips unless they're bothering us. So think about the space, think about all the work that it does for us, and then think about it taking a break, a soft, squishy break. Hips completely supported. Everything can soften and release into the ground. And then again, we're going to return to the space of fight or flight, this torso space. So hopefully you've had at least a few moments of total break, total rest, total let go. So as we let go, as we feel the support given to our physical body, we can start to tune into the other levels of our whole self. So we can start to feel our energy in our body. We can start to feel our breath as it moves. We can start to feel the mind, feel the gripping associated with the mind. Notice the mind. And notice the emotional states. So we're not just one thing. We're not just our thoughts. We're not just our feelings. We're not just this physical body. It's a whole unit. And we need to know what it is, know all the parts of us, know our triggers, know our emotional triggers, our thought patterns. And we can only do this if we keep looking in and doing these practices of surrendering into the mat and letting go and feeling what is present. So without thinking about a right or wrong answer, notice what is present emotionally. Notice what you feel right now. Notice perhaps that you feel more than one thing at a time. Notice what the mind is doing. So as we totally remain still for a long time, and give the mind less to focus on. So our world is very, very busy and fast. And as we slow down, the mind has less to distract it. So get to know where your mind goes when you slow down. Where does it go? What is your familiar pattern? Do you bring up fears from the past? Do you follow memories? Do you bring up worries of possible future events? Where does your mind go? What are your familiar patterns? What are your familiar grippings? And only in looking in and noticing these patterns, these common grippings of our own minds, can we begin to adjust. So we notice the gripping, we notice where the mind goes, and then we practice the pause. We practice the stepping back from the thoughts, noticing something else. So when your mind is distracted, when your mind runs off the mat and starts to think about maybe the to-do list or whatever it's going to, what happens in the physical body? Can you draw it back to physical sensation? Generally, if your mind runs away, you return to a little bit of tension in the physical body. And you can bring your awareness to this. You can say, oh, there goes my mind again. And I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to start scanning the body, looking for anywhere that I might be tight again. So maybe the soles of the feet, maybe the hips, maybe I have a pattern I send my attention into. I look in certain places. But I start to bring all my awareness back to physical sensation and starting over, following the body, letting go. And then the more that you've practiced this, the more often and more easily the mind is less of a distraction. So the less gripping it has, the less control of all of our focus it has. The mind and the thoughts, fire and wonder, it's their job. It is only the gripping that gets us caught up, that becomes problematic. So gently sending your awareness each time the mind draws you off the mat, sending your awareness back to the body, finding that pause from the flow, your own common flow of thoughts and feelings. Maybe you're caught up in an emotion. Maybe today is the day where you're really caught up in a particular emotion. So maybe instead of thinking about the thoughts, maybe you can really focus on the physical feeling of that emotion and feeling it, being present for it as if you're being your own best friend. So imagine a best friend that sits next to you and just waits patiently while that emotion passes, allows you to say, think, do whatever you need to let that emotion come and go. Imagine being that person for yourself, sitting here, letting yourself feel it and letting it flow. As if you're giving yourself your own hug, your own comfort. And this is the pause. This is the getting to know ourselves that's needed for that do no harm concept. We need to be able to stop, to rest, to get to know what's going on. Because when we know what's going on with ourselves, it becomes much easier to not harm others with our actions and words, because we have that pause, we have that understanding for ourselves. And we can stop being entirely controlled by an emotion, by a thought pattern, by a memory. We're learning slowly, little building blocks of how to find that pause, that rest, that comfort in our system, the letting go. And the more that you find this difficult, the more that you find the journey of letting go of the thoughts, of letting go of an emotion, the more that you find this difficult, the more that you find compassion for yourself and for others. This is not easy. Letting go is a journey on itself. If it were easy, we would all be walking around perfectly at ease, nobody hurting another person, everybody not being controlled by past experiences and emotions and egos. This is a journey. And the slower we go, the more compassion we give ourselves and the less judgment we have for ourselves as we go along this journey of trying to let go, of trying to get to know ourselves, of trying to be soft and patient and kind, the more that we can extend that softness and patience and kindness out to others, because it's hard. Staying on a healthy path, staying on what we know in our innermost self as where we should be going, in our innermost self, not because somebody else's rules, but our innermost self guides us in the path that we are supposed to be moving on. And when we move on that path, we feel, we act, everything moves a little more comfortably, a little more smoothly. So the more that we understand that staying on that path and not making mistakes is hard, the more that we have compassion for others who are possibly not quite on their own paths either. So we're coming up on this 60-minute mark. If you need more time, or if you found a perfect position and you are just going to practice resting, letting go, releasing, being present in this moment, feeling the support, feeling comfort, and letting the tension out of the body, practicing drawing your focus back onto the mat, somewhere on the mat, maybe in a physical feeling, maybe watching the thoughts. If you're ready to come out and your legs are either open with soles of the feet together or up on the chair, again, just bring a little warmth to the legs first. So rub your hands on the legs. Wake up the legs. Wake up the muscles of the legs, and then bring your knees together. Bring your knees into your chest and make your way over into a fetal position on whatever side is calling to you. So curling up in a fetal position, ending your pose, your practice in a fetal position of comfort and support. So in a fetal position, we're imagining being comforted like we were in a womb, being completely supported and comforted, wrapped up in a little ball. We take just a few moments to think about a time when all of our needs were met. A time before we had passed ourselves through the duality of life and judged ourselves as negative or positive. A time when we were just that spark of life, that inner little spark, the place where our inner wisdom is, the spark of life. When we come to this pose, we try to remind ourselves that that spark of life exists within us, unchanged by our experiences. Just waiting for us to connect within, peel off all the layers. And when we do these familiar patterns, familiar rituals, it makes, so there are patterns in our brain, familiar pathways in our brain. Think about the drive home. You hardly ever have to think about the drive home. It's a familiar pattern in the brain. So we come to these poses to create familiar patterns in our brain, little rituals, something that is very comforting. So we're looking to create a comforting, familiar pattern in our brain. So the more that you think about the reason why you're coming to this pose and connecting within, connecting to that inner wisdom within, and peeling off the layers. It's not that we peel off the layers and walk through our lives completely shed of all our past experiences and problems. It's that we have these little moments we build upon. So connecting to them, really connecting within, connecting to that inner wisdom. And as you come on up to a seated position, bringing your hands to prayer or heart space, imagine coming up a little bit lighter, a little bit softer. And think about this connecting our left and right sides in front of our heart as if accepting ourselves as whole and complete, precisely as we are. It's not that we don't ever change. It's that we're on a journey and we're not broken. We're learning and growing and moving and changing. We are not broken. We are whole and complete, precisely as we are. Even as we learn and grow and change. Find that pause, acknowledging your own inner wisdom. And then find that pause, acknowledging somebody else's. So just imagine visualizing, sending out this compassion and kindness from this space, your center, your spirit, your soul, sending it out. You can imagine someone in particular, or you can just imagine a visual of sending it out in general. And perhaps repeating the words, may all beings be peaceful and at ease. May all beings be peaceful and at ease. Thank you so much for joining us.